Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll masech the Ksubas daf Ayin Vav. We're going to begin on Ayin Vav about 6 lines from the top of Ashi Omer. So we mentioned in yesterday's daf that based on the Mishnah there seems to be a contradiction. On one hand, in the event that the father brings a proof, then we say that we believe, in fact, that the mum took place later. However, if he doesn't bring a proof, it's just stam, then we say the Baal is the one who's believed and doesn't give ksuba money, anything. However, and then afterwards it says the opposite. It says in the Seifa that, let's say she's already in the Rosh Hashanah, if she's already in the husband's domain, then the husband has to bring a proof that the mum was before, which is mashma stam, that he would not need to do so. So one of the answers that we gave is based on kan nimsu and kan hoyu. We just base upon where they are. When it comes to this case of stam, if it was discovered and the question arose only at the Beis Habal, so it's on him to have to bring the proof. And even stam, he's not going to be believed if he doesn't bring the proof. So that was one of the answers. Rav Ashi Aimer Reisha Manul Abba Biyadcha. The Reisha, says Rashi, Mahadar Namul Ukma Kuluk Rabbi Gamliel, that really he wants to establish like Rabbi Gamliel, the Chazakat Gufa Adifa, that if you have a Cheskas Aguf, for example, when it comes to when did she become a Ba'ula, so as we saw in the beginning of this Masechta, so according to him, we say, well, there's a Cheskas Aguf that she was born a Ba'ula, and therefore we'll assume that she only became a Basul later on. So we said the same thing over here. She was born without a mum, so she probably developed a mum later on. So then the question is, why do we say that she doesn't have the cheskas hakuf? So we said, well, maybe because there's cheskas mammon of a motzim chavaraya against it. However, the answer is different. It's not really her claim, ella shalavia sheksubas erisin la'av, because since this is regarding to the time of erisin, the claim is not for her, but the father, since he gets the ksuba. So it's not the father's cheskas aguf, it's hers. So therefore, it cannot go against the cheskas mammon. Or v'seifa manu biyadcha, which is referring to she's going to get the ksuba. So therefore, she has the cheskas aguf, and the husband must therefore be the one that brings the raya. So that's another answer. Eisvei fertigamor Rav Acha Berei de Rav Aviel Rav Ashi. Moida Rameir. Now, Rameir agrees, and as Rashi says, even though that when she's in the husband's domain, that in that situation, the husband has to be the one that brings the proof, says Rashi. He'll admit when it comes to mumin that could come upon her, says the Gemara. That these are mumen that probably came from before. So if there's certain mumen in which, even though she's now in the Rosh Hashanah, and therefore we said, well, maybe you're supposed to go after the husband, and it's his proof that he needs to show proof. But if it comes to a mum haruyin, so then in that situation, the father has to bring. But didn't we say before, when it comes to manali biyadcha, says Rashi, v'nemen haguf al cheskaso, she has a cheskas haguf that the mum took place later on. So achamaskinan biaseres, it's referring to she has an extra finger. Etzba yasera deleko memro acha eris and. So she has a mum, but it must be based on it that she had it from before. She was born that way. Practically Gemara yaseres my raya. So what proof can the father prove? Say, oh yeah, no, she only developed an extra finger after she was married. What are you talking about? This is clearly a birth defect. So maisi raya derom nefayasu. Obviously she had it from before, but the raya that he would bring is that he actually saw her extra finger and he didn't mind. He said he didn't mind the husband. That's what the raya is. Obviously, it cannot be the raya is that he has to bring is that it happened later on, because when it comes to certain things, that's when we say the din is that it must be the move happened from before. And this is the Gemara in Masechtas Kedushin. So let's say a person wants to exchange. I have a cow and you have a donkey. So we do this form of exchange. Says Rashi, and this is actually the Gemara. It's a little bit cryptic in its language. The Gemara talks about. It says Kol nasa damim ba'acher kivon shezachsa shemashach echa mehem neschayim chaveru bo'insi chalipin b'chol makom shehein. And it sounds like you can do chalipin with money, and it really says anything other than money. So as soon as you did Mashicha, and the other person is already going to have owned the other object. That's the idea. So Hamachav Par B'Chamor, Mashach Bal Chamor. So the owner of the donkey, who wants to get rid of the donkey, did Mashicha on Esapara, on the cow. So now he owns the cow, and now the other person, even though this Chamor is still here, he now owns the Chamor. Or even though it's true that the original owner of the cow, didn't actually grab the chamor ad shemeis hachamor until the donkey died. So, and of course, the whole question is, the owner of the par is going to say, well, your donkey died before you did Mashicha on the para. So and therefore, obviously, if no kinyan was done, they can say, well, I'm keeping my cow because your donkey died before you did the kinyan. However, in this situation, al bal hachamor will have iraya shahi chamor kayim b'shas mashichas para. So actually, because it was his animal that died, so the din is that he actually has to prove that the animal was still alive when he did mashicha on the cow. V'tanatuna kala. And just like we learned in our Mishnah, which talks about the mumim that take place of a kala, that's proof that the same din applies. Just like over there regarding the burden of proof, which we'll discuss which part are we talking about, the Reish, the Sefer of the Mishnah. So too, in this case, the burden of proof is on the owner of the donkey who died, to prove that in fact the donkey was still alive at the time when he did Mashiach on the cow. So b'shas Mashiachas par v'tanatuna kala. So hey kala, what is this referring to? Elam, if you want to tell me, let's just look at this first line in Rashi before we continue. Reish Masnisin, it's referring to the beginning of the Mishnah. Shebol ledin b'oida rusa, that she went to Basin while she was Erison. In that situation, the father has to prove. So Elam, and that's what we're going to say. If we're talking about as we continue to Ayin Vav, Midbeis Kal B'Beis Avia, that we're talking about a situation where the father is the Kal is still in the father's domain. So in that case, the father has to prove that the mum took place later. So to over here, when it comes to the Baal Chamor, he has to prove that the donkey was still alive when he did Mashiach on the para. So Midami Hasa Maisi Avraya. In the case of the Reisha, once the father brings proof, umapik, then we will get the money. You'll be able to get the ksuba. Hacha maisi bal chamor raya. So in this case, the bal chamor will prove umoikim, and he'll be able to keep the para because he already did. We definitely know he did mashiach on the para. So the para is by the owner of the chamor. So the question is, does he get to keep it or does he have to give it back? So these are two separate cases. One, if the father brings a proof, then the monies are taken away. Given the ksuba is given and they receive it. Over here, it's that they keep it. So Omer Abba Kalba Beis Chamia. Actually, we're talking about a kala in the house of the Baal, and therefore, in that situation, the husband will prove, and therefore he'll keep the money. But Kati Lodami Hasam Baal Maisiraya Umar Cheske. Basically, what happens is by proving that happened before, that weakens her cheskas haguf. The cheskas haguf thought that maybe it happened later on, so he's bringing proof that happened earlier, and it weakens the chazaka av. Basically, he's establishing his chazaka that the animal has the cheskas haguf that was alive. So therefore, he's proving that the animal's chazaka, in fact, was true, that it was alive. So one case, the husband is saying that the chazaka, her cheskas haguf, is not true. Here it's saying the cheskas haguf of the animal is true. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, kalva beis avia. You're right. Let's go back. It's talking about the kalva is in the father's house, and the father has to bring a proof so that she can get the ksuba money. And we're saying, however, it's ul kedushin. We're actually talking about not the ksuba money, but her to be able to keep the kedushin money. V'lo teim alebedam an di'er kedushin lav litibuyin nitnu. Ella fil man di'er kedushin litibuyin nitnu. So what is this saying? Since this was a suffix when the mum was developed, so again, he may not need to return the kedushin money. So that's what we're saying over here. So, and this is like all the questions over here. Question 1. So question 1 is this, as well as TA 30. Well, Mahu hanidain in kedushin lativuyin nitnu alo. TA 30. So let's look at Rashi over here. Rashi says, so again, it has to do with the kedushin money, whether she keeps the money or she has to give it back. So says Rashi, that the kedushin was not given to be sunken. Stam kedushin lavla tivuyin nitnu. She'im meis hachasan hakedushin chayzun. That if the chasan dies, let's say he drowns or something, that the kedushin money goes back. Hilchach, says Rashi, hacha ki havi kedushin suffix, since the whole thing is a doubt exactly when she got a mum, ein koicha yafa behen. Her strength is not so strong. Usrich lehevi raya, and that's why she has to bring a proof. Fine. So again, this is the whole question, whether or not when it comes to this money, question 1, that if the chasan dies, does the money go back? Because obviously, it was totally on him getting married. But the question is, does she still get to keep that kedushin money or not? So hani mili kedushi vadai. The only time we say maybe she can keep that money is if it was all kedushi vadai. It just happens to be he died of a kedushi tois. If the whole thing was a mistake because she had a mum, im maisi raya in ilolo. In that situation, she actually has to prove, or the father has to prove. If not, not. Meisvei frekting gemara. Machat shenimsis ba'oivi besa koisais. Regarding the dinim of treifa, let's say you find a needle in the stomach of an animal. Says Rashi, shehu ke'in kos. The reason why one of the 4 stomachs of a cow is called besa kosos, because it looks like cups. V'yeshbo saviv safasoi oivi sheni kaflayim, that the edges, the thick edges, there's 2 doubles. And he's found a needle stuck inside. The question is, this animal a treifa? Because it's so thick, it's possible that it didn't penetrate straight through everything. So that's why it depends. If you found it mitzad echad sherim mishneit stadim treifa. If you found it by one side, then it's kosher. That's not considered to be a hole. However, if it goes straight through to 2 sides, then it's considered to be a treifa. Nim soleha koyret dam. If let's say you find a speck of blood on the needle, b'yadu shulifnei shchita, then you'll know it happened before shchita, and therefore the animal is a treifa. Lo nim soleha koyret dam. If you don't find a speck of blood, b'yadu shul achar shchita. We say it was after shchita, and since it was after shchita, therefore the animal's kosher. So we don't know what happens. It's a suffix. We don't know what to do. But if it happened, if the speck of blood happened, if the speck of blood was on the needle, so it's before shchita. If you don't find any blood, you do shul achar shchita. Why? Because after the shchita, the blood was all removed from the body. of the animal. So therefore, if you don't find blood on the needle, which if there was blood in the body, there would be a karet dam. So it must be that this needle went through after shchita. Huglid piyamake biyadua sheshlosh yom kadim shchita. If, let's say, if there's a scab, it's clear it happened before. In this case, let's say you purchase this animal, which is the whole shaila. Did you purchase a kosher animal? Or the animal's definitely treif now, or we're not sure what the status is. So what if you find that there's a scab on it? So it's clear it must have happened before it's purchased, and therefore it's a mekachtos, because it happened before this animal was shechted. And therefore, again, if there's huglet piyamake, biyadu sheshlosh yon kan b'shchita. Lo huglet piyamake, if there's no scab, hamoitz mechev chaveroi alav haraya. In that situation, then the burden of proof is on the person to have them lose their money. The yoyev tabuch demei boy lesui raya umapik. And if, let's say, they gave the butcher money for this, then they need to be able to prove it to get their money back. Why don't we say, just like the case of the Baal HaChamor, where he's the one that actually has to prove it. So, and if he doesn't, he has to return the para. Why don't we say the same thing, that when it comes to this situation, that just like the Baal HaChamor, if he doesn't prove, he has to give back the para. So it should be the same thing over here. It's because you didn't pay the butcher. So my pascha. So the question, if that's the case, it would have explicitly said that. Don't listen to these rules. Anytime where there's a suffix that is born, so to speak, Bershuso, in your domain, alav haraya, which the Tanatuna Kala, which is similar to the case of the Kala, where it's totally on where the suffix, where the mum was found. Could have happened before, but we say if it was found it was brought to the attention only when she was in Bershus Abal, so at that point, it's on him. So to over here, it's all totally on where the animal was at the time of finding this needle. So the Gemara says like this: so if it's true they didn't give the butcher money, it's a suffix regarding the butcher. It's yolid diyoiv tabach demei. My paska stam de milsa kamad oyav inish zuzi oyav inish chevasa. So he said that the normal way is if a person did not actually give the money, then he's not going to actually give the item either. Says Rashi, Kol shenel tzavik b'rshusay al bal hapara lehevi rayas shemeis achamor. Again, we said you have to prove that the donkey died koydem mashicha. Hoya v'savik b'rshusa noilad shel nimsa achamor meis ad le'ach mashichas para. Okay. So where it says that's only if a mum he didn't see it. But as we mentioned, if we're dealing with a mum shebegoloi and yachalitain, he can't say anything, and he probably saw it, and he was mafias. Or if there was a base of merchatz. So on this, Amrav Nachman, as we continue Ein Zayin with Aleph, v'nichpeh. If a person happens to have, Rashi says chayli, an illness, shimimenu neifel aretz, that people fall on the ground, yeshlo zman lavoi, and basically she knows when it will happen, kamumin shebaseiser dami, which apparently this sounds a lot like someone who's an epileptic seizure. Bahani mili de kavile zman, that there's a set time. If it's not something which they really know what's going to happen, kamumin shebegoli dami. That's considered to be mum shebegoli. So if you know exactly when you're going to have a seizure, which typically not, so this question exactly if this is the case, then it's considered to be a mum shebegoli, a mum shebeseser, because it could be hidden. However, once it's something, if you don't know when it's going to happen, that's considered to be a mum begoli, and therefore it must be that it became known because it probably happened in the presence of others, and therefore because of that, the man will not be able to make any claims. Ad kan.